So we're kind of like a Snowflake meets a Palo Alto Networks or a
Yeah.
data to CrowdStrike, and that's a very exciting space to be in. Now, dark data sometimes could also be confidential data that people are keeping secret.
What you thought was great structure for the data over the past few decades, maybe suddenly in the AI scheme of things is almost become redundant, or you don't have the points that you need.
If you think about an old cassette tape that you may have been listening to music in the 80s, today there's very few cassette players that can play that tape. Sleeper cell malware could be sitting inside data and it's looking for compute. Compute is like the oxygen that allows it then to activate. It takes charge, it propagates, and before you know it, it's spread and probably could corrupt your data.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Our Own Devices. This time, as our promise goes, we are going to talk about something maybe you guys haven't really encountered. And we're going to talk about with somebody who has really been at the forefront of AI and the data that sort of works on AI. So we're going to talk to Sanjay Poonen, who's the CEO and President of Cohesity, which is how would you explain Cohesity, sir?
Well, we're an AI-powered data security company. Our mission is to protect, secure, and provide insights into the world's data, and we help customers with resilience of their data. That's how I describe it. We're the market share leader in the space with over 12,000 customers, hundreds of exabytes that we protect to the world's data. In the US, 85% of the Fortune 100 companies, and globally, over 70% of the Global 500. So we know a lot about data, securing the data of the world, and providing AI insight tools into that data.
So today we're going to talk about dark data. So how exactly would you sort of define dark data for people who don't understand?
Well, I mean, the term is not a, kind of a standard term, so different people have different definitions. Now, the way we would think about data is you can think about primary data like an iceberg. The top of the iceberg is primary data, and that's data that's very visible. And that could be in databases like Oracle or Snowflake, or in unstructured data sources like NetApp, Filers, or OneDrive. And then as that data ages, it gets stored in the bottom of that iceberg, secondary data. And that's when it gets to be more and more dark, in terms of its, having a historic time series of everything you have kept over time. And then as you archive that data, it gets more and more dark because you have less visibility to it. Now, dark data sometimes could also be confidential data that people are keeping secret for some reason. So people have different definitions of what, their definitions of things like dark sites where it's confidential data that's in a bunker. So depending on where you think of it, we would classify data that's actually backed up or archived as darker data than the primary data. And in sites that are extremely confidential or in bunkers, so to speak, those could also be instances of dark data.
So I work in a company that's almost 100 years old. So you would also have data which is maybe not in a readable form. Like, you have a lot of data which is in very, legacy formats, traditional, maybe paper. So how would you look at that kind of a data, especially when you are looking at a future where data is going to literally drive everything, and a lot of this institutional memory at some point needs to come into what you're doing, right? And the other corollary to that is that, and I remember a conversation I had with Snowflake, and we were discussing the structure of the data, right? What you thought was great structure for the data over the past few decades, maybe suddenly in the AI scheme of things is almost become redundant, or you don't have the points that you need, and the data that you have been collecting is not really of much value. So how do you solve those problems? And would that also sort of be, come into the space of dark data, for you?
Yeah, from our perspective, if you look at data as it ages, Snowflake would be a good example of data that's very active in a data warehouse. That's what they pioneered. That data gets archived. In the old days, it would have been put into tape. And that tape would be in a secure bunker or something. And in fact, the company we acquired and merged with, Veritas, was the best company to store that data in the old days and backup on tape. And some of our customers still have a lot of tape, hundreds of petabytes, some in the case exabytes worth of data that's in the tape. And you need to be able to have tools that can recover that data easily. If you think about an old cassette tape that you may have been listening to music in the 80s, today there's very few cassette players that can play that tape. So part of the benefit of having some of these sort of legacy capabilities is you can recover that data forever. And that's part of the reason we acquired Veritas, because there's a lot of data, the world's data, that's still on their format, either in or in disk format. And then over time, some of that data gets put into more, modern storage devices that might be flash. Flash allows you to recover it very fast, and storage is getting cheaper and cheaper. So disk is now a very common, or flash is a very common data place where you can store data, both short term and longer term. And the other thing that's happened is the cloud has become a very attractive place for people to store data. They just have to figure out if you're ingressing and egressing. That means if you're taking data in and out often, you end up with having to factor that into your cloud model.
So you need a lot of high quality data to power the AI layer that companies are now looking at. But AI itself can help you find out what's the, it can help you sort of mine the data you have, right?
Yeah, the way to think about artificial intelligence and both traditional AI and ML, but also generative AI, is, once you have a large amount of data, you want to typically, get insights into that data. So the larger your data in the data warehouse, like a Snowflake or an Oracle, or a large amount of unstructured data, when it gets very voluminous, it's very hard to search, summarize, analyze, detect patterns. And that's where AI tools allow you to scan that vast amount of data and derive insights. And many of them work on modeling and inference and things of those kind, training and inference. So one of the major breakthroughs in the last 2-3 years has been generative AI. And generative AI with large language models allow you to take vast amount of data and summarize it using a variety of techniques that are, training and inference related, where you have some kind of master model that you've learned from. And there's also techniques, like vector databases and techniques that are, for example, retrieval augmented generation, or RAG model, that allow you to very quickly take a subset of known data, or say, take your entire known data and build summarization based on a vector database that you build on top of that. So that's the approach that we've taken to what we've done jointly with NVIDIA in building a RAG model to summarize. So let's say you have 20 million, vendor documents, PDF documents in your backup, and you want to summarize all the economic terms you've given those vendors over the 10 years you've had with them. You can ask in our tool, Gaia is the name of our product that we built jointly with NVIDIA, summarize all of my economic terms I've given vendors inside my 20 million documents over the last 10 years, and give it me a nice table, all the discount percentages and such. And that turns out to be a very tough problem to solve if you didn't have generative AI techniques. And that's what we've now solved. And it's this type of capability is getting a lot of interest from our customers.
Are you seeing companies effectively deploy technologies to sort of, make use of this dark data that they have?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, listen, a significant part of the value proposition of what we do at Cohesity is protecting that data. So now, getting value out of that dark data starts with, first off, ensuring that that data is protected, especially from ransomware and cyber attacks. That's what we do well.
Yeah.
Guarantee the fastest cyber recovery if that data is attacked. And we have incredible technology to protect that data, immutable, things of that sort. So I think that the key for any customer is to ensure that that data is safe before you start using AI tools to get insights on it. And we would call that sort of the security element of the data work that we do. But then a significant part of our value proposition is just like a ChatGPT or an OpenAI or Snowflake, whatever. We want to give you tools that give you insights. So imagine the data's safe, but then you have a flashlight that can now examine and find patterns anywhere inside that data.
So you mentioned about security. So when you're looking at dark data, what kind of security issues uh, are usually encountered? Do you also have confidentiality issues, because really a lot of this data might contain stuff which you don't want everybody to access? So how do you tackle things like that?
A significant part of the way in which you back up data and protect it is what's called immutability. Immutability means that you allow the data to be written only once, and then you can't write over it. So that's how a tape used to be in the old days. Right? You write, and then it appends on top. It adds to the end of it. You can't write over. And once you've got that data, both immutable, in many cases encrypted, short of that media where that data is being completely burned or hacked, or somebody never hacked with a physical hammer or something like that, you can never destroy that data, right? It's always recoverable, always recoverable. Now, even in the case where there's a fear of it being destroyed because of some disaster, fire, earthquake, flood, you can have a sort of a second, third copy. So practice in this space has often been to have a 3-2-1 copy, where you have, your first copy sits here, then you've got a second copy, and then you have a third copy that's often in a bunker. And then you're never in a place where you're ever going to have any of your data lost. So much of these techniques of a 3-2-1 approach to how you protect data has been well thought through. Security, basic security sits in the core of what we call a zero trust platform that's inherently very, very security savvy. Then the second thing we do is make sure that we build advanced security capabilities to scan, classify, threat hunt, and normally detect sleeper cell malware that might be sitting in that data. So, a lot of security vulnerabilities are like disease. And imagine you have a kind of a pond of stagnant water, right? That could become a repository for all kinds of, kind of mosquitoes, whatever it ultimately feed on. And it's the same way with disease. They're just looking for a place to sit, and then disease looks for oxygen, and then it multiplies. Same way, sleeper cell malware could be sitting inside data, and it's looking for compute. Compute is like the oxygen that allows it then to activate. It takes charge, it propagates, and before you know it, it's spread and probably could corrupt your data if it's not immutable, or try to exfiltrate that data if it's not encrypted and send it somewhere else. So even if your data is completely immutable, meaning it can't be destroyed or it can't be rewritten, customers could a malicious actor could try to exfiltrate that data, send it to some external location, and then hold you ransom, saying, unless you pay me the ransom, I'm going to now share all of this data. Maybe it's your customers' data or social security numbers or whatever have you, to the whole world. And so both immutability and encryption of data is very important. Now, in the eventual case that your systems are affected, and you need to start recovering data from backup, one of the things you want to start doing is telling and assuring your internal stakeholders, or eventually even your board, that you can recover your top applications within an hour, maybe the next critical layer of applications within a day, maybe the next critical set of applications in a week, and maybe the least critical applications in a month. Okay. And then ones beyond that, you don't even care about if they ever come back. So that sort of simulation of a cyber recovery scenario is something you want to be prepared for, so that if something happens, the most important data can come up very quickly, and maybe your most critical apps come up in a day. So, and then for your last part of your question, which is confidential data, yes, you want to make sure that that sensitive data is easily detectable. That's called classification of the data. And then you have policies set for the classification data that might be different based on various different security postures.
As you talk to large companies which have which could have a repository of dark data, How do you explain to them the opportunity? Is there a monetization opportunity here? Is there a market edge that they could gain by accessing this data? So how do these conversations happen? And is it tough to make them aware that of the opportunity of tapping into the dark data?
Yeah, I think, listen, again, coming back, if you define dark data as all secondary data and
Yeah,
potentially data that's confidential and in dark sites, so to speak. The opportunity is, first off, make sure that before you even get insights on that data, make sure that data is completely safe from attacks.
yeah,
I describe that as the brake of a car being more important than the gas pedal. AI is like the insights, the gas pedal of a car, the
yeah.
brake, security is like the brake. So we first emphasize the security elements of that because there's no point talking about it, incredible analytical and AI capability. The data is not safe. But once you've gotten that, you show them the power of some of these generative AI capabilities, these generative AI techniques like RAG, and ensure that they're able to see value out of that. And the good news now is you can do things that you could never have done before using modern generative AI capabilities. And use case by use case, you can start it. So, example, this is not necessarily dark data, but it's a good example of value. In most support organizations, when you get a call from a customer saying, how do you do this? There is a knowledge-based document that says how to do that typically everywhere, but finding that knowledge-based document is often very difficult. Now with generative AI, you can build easily applications that can very quickly find where the answer to that question is and summarize it to a support agent. That's enormously, it improves their productivity extremely fast. And that's an example of a search based on a large amount of data that's confined into your document. So a number of airlines are starting to build that so that customers can very easily find information on their website. Call centers are using that to help their support representatives more easily detect documents. So I think there's going to be an enormous amount of innovation in areas where customer support. Similarly, legal e-discovery is going to be reinvented with AI. Contract lifecycle management is going to be reinvented with AI. Many of these places with large amounts of documents or data, and certainly, you mentioned Snowflake, Databricks, Snowflake, many of these companies are doing incredibly great work with AI models to allow the data in their databases, whether it's structured or unstructured, to be easily and quickly queryable.
If we come to India, are you seeing AI adoption trends out of India, which you think could be role models, for the rest of the world? And how are Indian enterprises using products like yours, for instance?
Yeah, I mean, of course, we have many multinational companies we're a US-based company, and
Yeah,
we have many multinational companies that have quite a big divisions in India, in Bangalore, Mumbai, and others. We have the system integrators that have often headquarters in India, whether it's TCS, Tata, Infosys, Wipro, HCL, but also the big Accentures and others have, kind of major operations in India. So all of these folks are at the front of either helping customers or have data themselves. And then we have a sizable, list of banks, public sector, hospitals, who are major customers of ours in India. And all of them now, as they standardize on our software at Cohesity, we're the market share leader, are able to get value from both the security and the AI of the data that we protect for them. And what we're starting to do is show them the value proposition of security of the Cohesity platform, now combined with Veritas, that can help protect a significant amount of the data at scale levels we could never do before. And our customer base is now, second to none in India. But then also show them the power of the AI tools. And remember, I mentioned many times, NVIDIA looked at the space and picked one company to invest in. That was Cohesity. They're on our board.
Yeah.
And that's helped us tremendously learn, because you want to also in this space learn from the best in AI. And we feel very fortunate that in addition to NVIDIA, we're doing a lot with Google and Microsoft and Amazon in AI. And those four companies are guiding a lot of what we do in our AI research.
So if you look at the future, what excites you the most about the space that you're in? And again, the way technology is transforming, it's transforming so fast. really don't know what the future holds. But how excited are you about the future?
I think it's fantastic because I've always been a kind of a data person. I spent many of my years at SAP building the analytics business and the advanced analytics
Yeah.
business that I call today AI. We weren't using the term generative AI at the time. And then I spent a significant part of my VMware years in the security part of the industry. And this is a space that's at the center of three core phenomena: multi-cloud, workload data protection. Number two, security and AI. So we're kind of like a Snowflake meets a Palo Alto Networks or a
Yeah.
data the CrowdStrike, and that's a very exciting space to be in. We're solving problems that are very relevant to not just CIOs and CISOs we talk to, but also to the boardrooms. I'm on two boards, in addition to obviously the Cohesity board. I'm on the board of Philips, the medtech giant in Netherlands, and Sneak, a developer security company. And to many of us on boardrooms, the topic of cybersecurity and the risk of ransomware attacks of data resilience in general is a very important topic. I mean, the CrowdStrike incident that happened, which was not malicious, but was an incident that affected the entire world, taught us a lot about resilience. And I think it's going to be very important that we bring that notion of resilience to data. And though we believe our technology is best served to do this at scale, we have the largest customer base of the biggest logos that are doing this, and we learn significantly from all of these customers, whether in financial services, public sector, healthcare, telco, technology. We're very fortunate to have the customer base we have.
So, Mr. Poonen, thanks for being on the show. It was fascinating listening to, again, in this show, we always tell people you're going to learn something new. And I'm sure a lot of our listeners have learned something new and thinking about how to bring this, this edge of knowledge to their business.
Thank you, Mr. Nandagopal. I appreciate being able to talk to you on your show.
So you were listening to Sanjay Poonen of Cohesity. We'll be back again next week with another guest and a lot more knowledge and insight. Till then, we are everywhere you listen to your pods.